So welcome guys, my name is Amanda Villarreal and we also have Sarah Brogan who is going to be joining us to share with you about heart health. And this picture that's on your screen right now, I just thought that this was a really good way to start our Zoom tonight. And I know that most of us know the importance of trying to exercise, trying to eat well and make the right choices, but of course it doesn't always happen. But I want you to know right away that one of the biggest things that we can remember is it's never too late to get started. And this is a great reminder that, again, what you've done in the past, that's done, but every day is a new day. So we would love for you to start making healthier choices starting today. And as we look about heart health, you know, our heart is a very fascinating organ and there is so much we can learn about it. But just to kind of highlight a few things about it, you know, the heart is, if you look at what it does and the functions of it and how much it does for us every single day, we should be paying more attention to it. You know, I always mention, for example, when I'm teaching a yoga class, I say oftentimes, you know, how many times do you think about when you're breathing throughout the day? And again, most of the time, most of us are never aware of when we take inhales, when we take exhales, or, you know, just even noticing how our heart beats and ever checking your heart rates. And nowadays I am a big fan of using, you know, different types of fitness watches and using that also as a guide to help you know more about what's happening with your heart. But as we're getting into understanding some of the things that we can do, we also want to look at what happens when we aren't taking care of our heart. And one of the things I want to highlight here right away, which you guys are going to hear myself and Sarah say this probably several times tonight, that there's a lot we can do in prevention. And these Zooms we do every single Monday night, 20 minutes we spend on a specific topic. And we are always open for suggestions, but this topic tonight, I feel like in particular, is one that we could really spend a lot of time on this. And I know that a lot of us know the basics of heart health, but when you look at the facts and the numbers of how many people die from various diseases related to the heart, it is staggering. Heart disease is the leading cause of deaths in the US. If you look at what happens when narrow the arteries, that's the most common cause of, you know, what happens with the arteries as they're shrinking. What Sarah's going to be talking about this is, you know, eventually they close. And unfortunately, we have no symptoms when we have heart disease. So it's not something we can prevent because we don't know it's necessarily coming unless we're taking action steps beforehand. Now, blood pressure would be another thing to be noting that plays a part in what's going on with our heart. And I just think that if you're kind of looking, you know, on the screen here, you'll kind of see that high blood pressure is an indicator and a risk factor for many other health conditions. So when you look at the facts of heart attacks, you look at strokes, you look at heart failure, you look at kidney disease, high blood pressure would be a risk factor for that. So knowing your blood pressure is important. And many people ignore the symptoms, which I actually thought it was very interesting that I heard, I believe it was last year, that they were looking at raising the numbers for blood pressure safety. It was 120/80 was always the norm, and they're considering to make it higher because the Americans are tending to have their numbers raise up. But instead of us just talking about diet and exercise, they want to adjust the standards. And that's not how we should be looking at doing things. We want to be actually being proactive and knowing what we can do to make a difference. And yes, as we age, our blood pressure does naturally go up some. There are things that change with age. But if you look at what happens here, in the middle of the screen here, how much of this is preventable? Okay, so we would love for you to be thinking about lifestyle first, medication second. And that's when we talk about a lot of our topics. We really want you to understand that yes, there's a time for medicine, but there's also a time that we can know about natural alternatives, very safe options that are available. So, and when we look at I wanted to kind of showcase here real quick, because statin drugs are probably the ones we most hear about for cholesterol, high blood pressure. But when you think about what those do, number one, once you're on one, you're probably going to be on one the rest of your life. And number two, there are side effects with these. So when you look at what happens when people that are put on, for example, a statin, nobody talks about how you should be increasing your levels of CoQ10. Nobody mentions that a side effect could be diabetes or memory loss, which could lead to Alzheimer's, or even ulcerative colitis or irritable bowel syndrome that can develop from something as simple as being on a statin. So, I'm not saying that there's not needs for those. Of course there is, but if we can know some options, that's what we're all about. So some of the things we can look at here, and these are just some interesting statistics of where a lot of deficiencies lie. But for example, vitamin C. 24% of 31 to 50-year-olds do not meet the basic C requirements. If you look at your blood vessels, your bones, it plays a large part into what happens in many systems in our body. So getting enough vitamin C, it's water soluble. If you're taking a natural form of vitamin C, you don't have to worry about overdosing. Your body's going to use it. When it doesn't, it excretes. 40% of adults over 55 are B vitamin deficient. This is another area that, as you get older, your B12 in particular starts to decline with age. If you are on a lot of medications, your B6 is oftentimes very deficient. So taking a complete B complex, a great idea for a healthy cardiovascular system. And again, we only have 20 minutes. So we want to think about what are quick options we can do and some quick steps here to just help give you guys a lot of information that you can think through. This is recorded, so feel free to go back and listen to this also. But the first thing we can do is cover our bases. We just mentioned B vitamins. We just mentioned vitamin C. Now, I know a lot of my clients, a lot of the people that I talk to find this to be one of the best ways to at least cover your basis for all of our main vitamins and minerals. And considering here, our micronutrients that we can get from our multivitamins, our, even looking at our probiotics, our carotenoids, but to eat all of these foods every single day, and many of these are pertaining to heart health, is very difficult. And also, most of us cannot eat a perfectly balanced diet every day. So this is, again, just ensuring we're not getting any deficiencies. And again, you wouldn't think that, a nutrient deficiency could be affecting your heart health. 100% it can. And one of the areas we're going to be getting into here especially, and again, we don't have a whole lot of time here, but omegas. This is where we're going to start here. So a healthy heart supplement regimen, omegas would be one of the first places to begin. And why omegas? It promotes circulation. It helps to keep blood flow. This particular product called Omega Guard actually has all 7 full spectrum occurring naturally fatty acids. There's no lead, PCBs, mercury. You want to make sure you have a clean source of omegas. So for heart health, this, especially the omega-3s, is a very important focus for helping to keep your heart strong. And every single cell in your body actually requires essential fatty acids. And a lot of those come from sources that we do not eat, like sardines and types of fish that oftentimes are not readily available to us, or that we actually want to eat. Then we look at some other options here. Shaklee blood pressure. This is an amazing product, and I love the fact that it's actually called blood pressure. So the key ingredients in here, if you look at what is in this, it's actually a combination of vitamin C, magnesium, it has potassium, it has grapeseed extract, spinach powder, beet powder, and those ingredients have been found to helping with promoting healthy blood vessels and helping with blood circulation. So that can help with blood pressure. And I don't know if you ever heard of things that are called plant source nitrates, but those are kind of key to helping also with keeping hypertension, keeping blood pressure down. So those are very high actually in spinach and the beetroot powders. And that's why it's found in that specific product there, that blood pressure. So, and then just to mention here a couple of the other ones very quickly, we also have cholesterol reduction complex. And, again, I love the fact that the title of it basically helps you to know what this is used for. But 2/3 of our cholesterol is actually produced by our body. But the other part we have to somehow supplement, whether it's through food or we are taking a supplement form of it. But plants do not have cholesterol. So a lot of people that are vegetarian, a lot of people that stick with more of a plant-based diet, cholesterol can actually be a hard thing to keep regulated. So there is an option for it. And this cholesterol regulation complex actually has a combination of plant sterols and stanols, which have been found to inhibit the absorption of cholesterol. So it's helping to keep things moving. And that's our goal, is to make sure we're not getting any of those vessels blocked. And again, Sarah's way more knowledgeable on all that than me, but it's a great thing to note that we have options for helping to assist versus using medications that may have side effects. And that's why we're sharing this with you. The next one is CoQ Heart. And I mentioned a little bit ago, if you were on a statin, everybody should be supplementing with CoQ10 that is on a statin. And this CoQ Heart product especially is important because it has an optimal amount of CoQ10. So if you are, for example, just looking for maintenance, they say around 30 milligrams a day is what's generally recommended. But for most people, especially if you're on a medication, 100 milligrams is what's recommended daily. And so if you look at what's in this CoQ Heart, there's 100 milligrams of CoQ10, and you need to take just one of these a day. But what I want to highlight really fast before I turn this over to Sarah is that products are not all the same. So you may think you can just go buy any over-the-counter CoQ10. And I wanted to highlight just some of the third-party clinical studies that have been done on, in particular, our CoQ Heart product. That the absorption, if you're looking at percentages on here, that there are so many key factors in how these are put together. So for example, soft gels are going to be absorbed different than powders and tablets. And, you know, that's where the studies become so important. And we also have a combination of resveratrol in there, which helps with aging and helping to prevent plaque, relaxing your blood vessels. And if you see at the bottom here, this was from a consumer lab report that was done that basically found in supplements that it tested, this is very interesting, that the supplements ranged anywhere from what the label said had in it, of 0% of actually CoQ10 in it, all the way up to 175% more than what was listed on the label. And again, when we're talking about trying to make sure we're getting the right amount, that is where the testing is very important. We want nature-based, but scientifically proven, and that's why we choose to, you know, partner with Shaklee and share a lot of the natural options that they provide. So, all right, without further ado, let's go ahead and let Sarah take over here. And Sarah, hopefully you can see, I think I switched my screen here. You are good? So, all right, Sarah, thanks for joining us.
Yeah, I can see everything. So yeah, that was all really good information, Amanda. And I think we could talk about this for like an hour if we could, but I love Heart Health Month. It's really kind of a cool thing to me because what I do for my primary job is cardiac nursing. Not really cardiac rehab side of it, kind of more of we find the problem. So that's why I love Heart Health, talking about all this stuff, talking about ways we can, you know, maybe not get to see me. You don't really want to make it to the cath lab. What I do is heart caths. So say someone had a stress test, they've been having some chest pain, they're short of breath, they went to see their doctor. You'll go through a series of steps, and then the gold standard is to come have a heart catheterization. And that is what we do. We basically take pictures of your coronary arteries with contrast and look for narrowings, blockages. We can test the strength of your heart, see how it's squeezing. We can look at the different chambers of the hearts, how the valves are all working together, and just see if we can, you know, find the problem. And a lot of people are familiar with, you know, stents and balloons. We put balloons in to open up arteries, and then we put a stent in, which, you know, holds open the artery. That's not coming out. You're going to have that in for the rest of your life. So that's kind of the procedures that we do in my job. And then we also do the emergent ones. So if someone goes down and is having a heart attack, they'll come into our lab, and that's obviously a more hectic situation. But what I love about what Amanda was talking about is so much we can do is prevention. She said, you know, there's a place for medications. I'm a nurse. I'm 100% for medications, but I am also 100% of an advocate that there's a lot you can do before you try the medication. You know, you're going to go to your doctor. Everyone's going to be put on a statin, like she said. There's pharmaceutical companies behind them. There's other reasons to go on them, but there's so much we can do if we can advocate for ourselves, take responsibility for our health, to not get to the cath lab. You know, sometimes there's things we can not prevent, you know, genetics. Some people, we had an Iron Man come in recently, had a heart attack. You know, there's nothing you can do. It's just kind of in your genetics, but that's few and far between. There's a lot we can do to prevent these things. And, you know, she had mentioned high blood pressure. A lot of people kind of ask me, you know, what does high blood pressure mean? And if you think about it, it's the load on the heart, is how hard your heart has to work, how hard it has to squeeze, how hard it has to work to pump blood out to your body, which feeds everything from your brain to your toes. So when the vessels around your heart, they're the ones, they're in the blue here, if you guys can see that picture. Those vessels are providing blood flow. And if they're constricted, your heart has to work harder. And your heart's a muscle. It's going to poop out. As we get older, we're going to have a weaker heart. But there are things we can do to kind of keep that pressure down, to keep that strain down, to keep that load down on the heart. So that's kind of in a nutshell when people say, why does blood pressure matter? It's just increasing the load. It's increasing how hard it has to work. Some people ask about cholesterol. The biggest thing with cholesterol is clogging the vessels. I work in the plumbing job of the heart. We look at the flow. There is a side to the cardiac world that's electrical. That's like pacemakers and defibrillators and abnormal rhythms. We do that as well. I'm not going to talk about that, but we're talking about the plumbing. So what cholesterol does is it's blocking those arteries. So the blood can't flow where it needs to be, which therefore a part of your heart muscle is not getting blood flow. And it's going to affect how it squeezes and how it perfuses the rest of your body. And to do things, such as looking into natural alternatives is a great way to kind of keep those things like that down, to keep your blood pressure down, to keep your cholesterol down. So you kind of got to think of it as a big plumbing mechanism. You're trying to keep those arteries open, which gives blood flow to your heart, which allows it to squeeze better, and then everything's going to get perfused a little bit better. And so I have some pictures here that Amanda pulled up just so you guys can see what we do. It's the left side of my screen. It says normal RCA. That's your right coronary artery that feeds the back of your heart. This is a great picture. You see the nice black straight line. It makes a nice C. It flows all the way down. There's little branches down there you can see are getting flow. That's great. That's what we want to see. Someone who comes into the cath lab and has a picture to the right, you can kind of see how it goes, and then it stops. That's a pinch. That's a blocked artery. Probably plaque, probably buildup that's been in there for a while. It can close suddenly. That's a little bit more rare. But just to show you that, you have these tubes, and these tubes are feeding your heart muscle. When they get blocked, flow's not going to get to where it needs to go. So in a situation like this, we would open it up with a balloon, kind of pop it open, put a stent in there, and then it would look again like the picture to the side of it there. And if you want to go to the next one, Amanda. And then there's another side of your heart, the left side of your heart, still the same muscle, just a different side of it that has many more vessels. And again, you can see on the left-hand side, don't worry about the acronyms, but they're all branches that are open. Nice squiggly lines. The contrast is all the way through. You look to the right, and then we're like, uh-oh, this person's probably having a lot of chest pain. They probably haven't been feeling very good. They've probably been short of breath. Again, they're short of breath because their heart is not perfusing. It's not squeezing because it's not getting what it needs. So again, we would open that one up with a balloon and a stent, and hopefully they would be feeling better shortly. And, Amanda had mentioned too about omegas. I love omegas as a cardiac nurse. If there's one thing you want to take is omegas. Keeps things flowing. It keeps things from sticking from your brain to your heart to your legs. And platelets are a big thing. Platelets are things in your blood vessels that can stick together. And when platelets collect and they stick, that can cause a blockage. So it really just kind of keeps things flowing, keeps things moving all throughout the body. So that's a huge one. Kind of keeps things slippery, if that's a easier way for you to think of it. So omegas are a big one in the cardiac world. And then the other thing I wanted to piggyback on what Amanda said is, blood pressure. We look at these pictures of the arteries. Go back one. I guess you don't need these, but just know that there's arteries going everywhere in your body. Another thing we do at my job is we open up vessels in the leg. We do a ton of, people not getting blood flow down to their feet. We do a lot of, she mentioned the kidneys. That's huge. It's not just your heart. It's keeping everything lubed up and slippery so that the flow goes to where it needs to be. So that all parts of your body can be affected by things like this. So I guess in a nutshell, what I love about my job, I love what I do. I love fixing people up. I love helping people feel better. But there's a big part of me that loves the prevention side of it. And that's why I love Shaklee. It fits right in there with, doing what we can, staying away from medications because they're good, but there's always side effects. So just be an advocate for yourself, look into natural alternatives, know that it's okay to ask questions when you go into your doctor's office, advocate for yourself, try different things, let them know you're trying different things. They'll be open to it. Most of them, they should be. But just know that it's okay to kind of take this route and try different things when you're going in to see your physician. Any questions about, I don't want to get into, drugs and all that, but about what I do or how Shaklee fits in or what you could or could not be doing?
You explained it all so well, Sarah, that they all...
Oh, can you explain again what the CoQ heart does?
Well, sure. You want me to, Sarah?
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So the CoQ heart, it basically has, it has multifunctions to it. So when you look at this, it's a little more than just saying it's supporting your heart, kind of like other products. We have a specific purpose for it, but this one actually promotes energy in all cellular parts of your body. So the heart is going to be a main one that's affected, but it also helps with strengthening. So perfect for helping to strengthen the heart, but also helps with inhibiting the bad cholesterol from being absorbed. Mm-hmm. So when we are looking at overall heart health, this will help to keep the blood flowing more through the arteries, and it will help keep the oxygen in there, which is extremely important to help with nothing to be staying stagnant. So, when you even look at cellular level, like this CoQ heart, it can even help with your nerves. It helps to protect your nerves. Like there's so much that it does internally. Like it's really hard to say there's just one property that's important to it. But I love the fact that it does multiple things. And even I wrote down a list here because I'm big on like trying to help people know what else you could use this for, because I think CoQ heart, okay, automatically occurs in your head heart. But I wrote down this list of what also CoQ10 is used for. Heart disease, we're already in that area. We talked about high cholesterol, high blood pressure, congestive heart failure. But here's some things you probably would not relate this to: Raynaud's disease, diabetes, MS, fibromyalgia, Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, infertility, muscular dystrophy, boosts immune system. We mentioned if people are on cholesterol medications, that was kind of a list that I went through. Breast cancer would be another one. But anytime you're trying to promote more oxygen and more blood flow, kind of like omegas, this is a little more specific though. That's what that CoQ10 does. So that was a really long description. Sorry about that, but hopefully that helped. Yeah. All right, great. Good. Any other questions, guys, or any comments? All right, hope it was helpful. Please, we love to hear feedback, guys. So any questions, comments, please share with whoever invited you. These are all to help you guys. So we would always love to hear feedback. And we're going to continue on for business training. For those that want to hang out, you are welcome to. Otherwise, we will hopefully see you back next week on our next topic, which will be on, we're getting into our business training here next, but I'll show you the slide here really fast. Next week, we're going to be talking about meal planning and balanced meals. So planning ahead, guys, next Monday night, that is our topic. So just a heads up, so you can plan ahead. Hopefully we'll see you guys back next week, Monday night. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks. Thank you. All right, guys, so we're going to continue on for our business training here. So hopefully you guys all enjoyed heart health. Sarah, thanks for sharing. I thought that was great. Good to hear.
Like it was a scare tactic.
Sometimes people need that, Sarah. Yeah, that was perfect.
I think it's cool stuff. I think it's cool to see, I don't know, people go into the doctor all the time and they're like, oh, I have high blood pressure. I don't really know what that means or what's happening. I have heart failure. What does that mean? It's just like, no one asks questions.
They don't. Totally agree with you. Heart's giving you a thumbs up, sir. Yes, for sure. All right, guys. Well, let's get into our business training here. And I have a few things I want to kind of talk through here really quickly. If you guys haven't seen this, I screenshotted this. I did post it last week, but I just wanted to kind of make sure you guys all have updates. I don't know if some of you have happened to see now when you log in, it will say reward points available. They're not right yet. So just a heads up. They are still working through getting everything ready to be launched, but this is the projected dates. So if you want to look at your rewards, I think you're going to start to be able to see them now. But personal group, so these would be your, loyalty rewards, you'll be able to start to see them in your reports of who's going to be getting what. But members can start to redeem theirs well, I guess it's a week and a half from now. So on February 18th, and distributors on March 16th, and then for business leaders, April 16th. So there's a big gap in between there. And I'm heard on one of the Zooms that part of the reason was they didn't want everybody redeeming their points at the exact same time, because it's going to, affect the PV for a lot of people. If you got everybody at launch the same day and everybody redeems their points, nobody's going to order for that month. So it is actually smart how they're staggering this. So at least you guys kind of know the schedule for this. So any questions about that, guys? Or anybody noticed they saw their points?
Mm-mm.
I did. And I was like, I don't know.
I've seen mine. Yeah.
You did see yours. I
Yeah.
have a lot of products I can redeem here. I was like,
Yeah,
whoa.
me too.
Yeah,
It's like, wait till April now.
Yeah, so I was like, oh, I got